S&P breaks out to new highs. Nasdaq makes another new high and continues its descent to all-time highs. We'll explain why. Bitcoin rallies 4% on a court decision. NVIDIA breaks out of a month base, closing at a new all-time high. Coin up 25% today. We'll explain why. SMCI all-time highs. RETEST is through a major resistance level. Massive follow-through in the Bitcoin names. Mara, Riot, MicroStrategies was up 50 points today. AEHR is up to all-time highs after hours. We have a lot to go over. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back. You can see today that we broke out, hit a new high. Very nice move. You have this bottom setting up really nice at 44.08. So you know where the bottom is, at least an interim bottom, and we can start seeing that we're curling up. We just put in our regular moving averages, the 12, the 22, and the 55. We can see the slope here, and we can see exactly how we're acting, and we're acting actually perfectly. This is really very well received. Maybe we get some kind of pullback, and we just keep inching our way higher. PPI came out today. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but you were looking at for 0.2%. We came in at 0.1. It's really that simple. Very little more to spend our time going through. Now, if you take a look here, we can all see that breakout, and we all know that that 4,500 level is going to be some kind of support, and it's been holding ever since it flipped. It's been holding. If we drill into this a little bit more, we can see that test of 4,500. Obviously, this was based upon CPI, and we can see how we acted on that test. This was very bullish, came back, retested, and then made a higher high. And what we would do is just want to watch that level as well, and that would be 45.25, setting up to be super technical so far. You can see that 45.25 level. You can see that 4,500 level. Another really good thing about the market is that there's so many people that are still bearish. This is usually what happens when you come out of a bear market, which we came out of months ago. And what you see happening is people stay bearish, and they stay bearish too long, and then they just tie their ego to it, and there's really no thought or rationale behind it. They just become economists, and you just don't want to be in that situation. I watched people do it in 2003, and I've watched people do it after the great financial crisis, and it's an absolute disaster, quite frankly. You can see your level right here, and you can see how you're holding in here, and that's going to be our key level for the S&P. You have some different sectors that are breaking out. The breadth is absolutely insane. Now, if you take a look at NQ Nasdaq, we now have two different drivers for this market rally. You can see right here how we acted at that 15.378. You can just watch this level here, test, retest, and then breaks out when? CPI. Everybody was expecting a bad CPI except JP Morgan and Goldman, and then we just see what the market has done since then. There is very little to say here. Very little to say. The idea that we are miraculously going to roll back down for some godforsaken reason, I don't see it. Could we pull back? Sure. Could earnings come out and be bad? Absolutely. And if that's the case, that's a driver. If NVIDIA or other corporations start missing earnings, that would be a driver that we could then hang our hat on and say the market's weak. But there is nothing here that is telling us that the market is weak. Absolutely nothing. You have CPI that came out that was excellent. You have PPI that came out. You have core CPI below 5%. Go look at what happened in 1983. It's very obvious what's going on here if you would just look at this objectively. Will there be pullbacks? There will most certainly be pullbacks, and they will be vicious. Why? Because as I always say, we don't have $1.7 trillion behind us anymore. We're going to have some pretty vicious pullbacks. If we look at the stocks, we talked about this a couple days ago. Please remember, all these videos are linked. So we start on Saturday, and then we run through the week, and we see what's going on, and then adapt to those changes. But we've been talking about the stocks and this pendant up here for a very long period of time. The 500 range we had to hold, we did, and now we've broken out. Now, let's just go through this so people get how this works. You don't just make a new high and then miraculously, that's it, it's all over. You're just starting. You're just starting to break out. So you have to look at it from this perspective. From that breakout, rally, retest, et cetera, as we got tighter and tighter. Let's clean all this off, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Now what you have to do is go here and say, okay, this is my range. And you have to look at your range here and say, okay, that's my range. All right, well, maybe we don't count the new high. You would count the base. So that's my base. Okay, that's today off this base. So you're just beginning. Usually you can take a look at the length and then the breadth of the move and get an understanding of where you're going to be as far as going higher. I don't think that there's any question that we're going to take out the all-time highs. I mean, if you're asking me where I think we're going to be by the end of the year, I think we're taking them out. And I think we're taking them out sooner than later, quite frankly. But that's an opinion, and that doesn't mean that we can't go to 480 before that happens. But look at that. I mean, I don't really see how you're going to look at this and say, oh, by the way, we're definitely going to come in. We worked off the overbought here on the RSI. Not only did we work off the overbought, if you drill into our levels right here, this 22, SMA, and 12 right here on the cross, we held right in there. I mean, it doesn't get any more technical than just hanging in this range and then just reversing and pushing higher. So we're seeing semiconductors continue to push. It's very specific names that are moving, and there are leaders. NVIDIA obviously is a leader, and you can see this, and I want to just be real clear about this. I added 3 times, I think, yesterday in the room, and I think we had some people that were even adding again today. So it's done exceptionally well, and we've been playing with this for a period of time if you've been following along. But here's the thing that I want people to get. You have this base, and so you would look at that and go, and I was asked this a lot in the room, and I walked through how I did it, but I'm just going to show everybody really quickly. You have to look at this and go, I have a base. Here's the top, here's the retest. So, okay, from here over, you still have that base. We can all see that, right? So that's our area, and that's our base. Okay, so now that we know that where that base is, this is day one. This is not, we're up, we had a month, 2 months of basing. Okay, this is a base, no matter how you want to look at it, and here we go. So we're just starting this. Now, how high that goes, we don't know, but there's a real easy way back of envelope, in my opinion. I always say back of envelope because you're basically giving a rough estimate. What you're doing is you're just taking the low and you're taking the high of that move, okay? And then based upon that, it's actually a little bit lower. It's around, told them you should get it exact. There it is. So you're this, it's roughly should be around 482 and change, but you're in that area. And I think that's where you're heading. I think that's one of the first areas that we're heading to. If you've been watching this channel for a while, my levels are pretty decent usually as far as where we're heading to. So I think that that's pretty realistic for where we're going. I don't really think that's saying a whole heck of a lot considering we were up 21 points today and everybody is going to have to start chasing. If you're not invested in semiconductors and you're in institutional money right now, you have a problem. This week, we will go through smart money, dumb money on Saturday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to go through all the institutional holdings. We're going to go through a lot fundamentally so that people really understand what's happening. But look at this volume the past 2 days. Okay, I'm back to that average after this peak. It's really significant stuff, guys. I can't stress this enough. It's one of the reasons I keep telling people, be careful who you're listening to now, whether I'm influencing you or whoever's influencing you, because you don't see these kinds of moves. What we're going through happens once every 10 or 20 years. And people are just you're either going to get it or you're going to sit on the sidelines and watch other people get it. I mean, I don't know how to be any clearer about my position. If you take a look at Bitcoin today, we had a nice move because XRP went higher. Now, XRP obviously is the cryptocurrency that was embroiled in a lawsuit that obviously the government lost. This administration's got a real problem with the FTC and SEC. They keep losing court dates over and over, or court appearances over and over again. I am sure they'll appeal. They just lost ATV. But essentially what they were saying is that selling a security to retail is not a or selling crypto to retail is not a security. Well, if that's the case, that's a precedent for a lot of things. And that's why we moved. Okay, so the moment that this happened, the very next move that happened was coin, and it exploded to the upside. So now we have a completely different driver to the market. Now we have a driver of cryptocurrencies. Now they're going to appeal. I am sure they're going to appeal. And they'll probably lose that appeal, but they're still going to appeal. So you might see these get weaker, you might not. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, this is clear as day now that the SEC has a real problem with their case here. If they're going to go out and say that Coin was selling securities that they shouldn't have been selling, and you already have a judge in another case that ruled that, by the way, that's not a security. I'll tell you how little concern Coin has about the SEC case now. They already listed XRP back to trade. So now that you're seeing this, you're going to have trading volumes increase. It also shows that this SEC case might not be as strong as once anticipated, which could make sense why ARK, Fidelity, and all these other companies are talking about these Bitcoin ETFs. So you see coin move higher. GBTC, which is also in front of an appellate court. Now, you can see how that acted on the news from XRP today, and that's a really nice move. This is something we actually own in the community and it did quite well with, but they're all going to move. The ones that have the potential to benefit the most on rulings, in my opinion, are GBTC and Coin, because they actually have events in front of judges, and now you have a precedent set, and I am sure that their lawyers will use that precedent in some way. I'm not an attorney. I'm just telling you the way that the game is played. So if we know this, then we just start running through those other names. We look at MicroStrategies, which I've been talking about on this channel for about 2 weeks now. We are in this at 340, I think, somewhere around there, and we're up about $130 on it in about 2 weeks. And to me, it just seems like it's setting up, and we're probably going to raise the target to up here at about that 5 level. I mean, it just looks like it's going to be an absolute monster. I don't know how you could look at this and just think that, oh, by the way, this is going to stop. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have pullbacks. I want to stress that, because I'll make these statements, I'll explain long-term where my head is, and then someone will put a comment and say, oh, it dropped today. I'm not worried about if this dropped. I'm up $130. So if it goes down 20 points tomorrow, I gotta be honest, I could really care less. So this is not what we do here, trading and investing. It's not just a day trading channel. Please be aware of that. If that's what you're interested in, there's probably several other channels that are probably better geared to just day trading. So if you take a look at MicroStrategies and you see how you're acting here, that 527 level looks very strong to me, and I just don't see a reason why you're not going to get there. Go through the other names and you just see the breakouts all over the place. You're seeing the volumes increase substantially, and you can see that right here. I'm sure you can see that right there. That volume is just exploding to the upside. So I like what I'm seeing here. It's very difficult to look at these and not be excited. You can see up here as well, you're just exploding, and look at that volume. That's not going to go away. Okay, that kind of stuff is just not going to go away. So you have another driver now besides semiconductors, and you look at the NVIDIAs of the world. AEHR had earnings tonight, and they absolutely crushed earnings. Now, this is what we were looking for, and this is what they did, and they beat. And if you take a look after hours, this was our key level, and we've already hit an all-time high after hours tonight. You have option expiration tomorrow, and there might be some movement there, and there might be some issues there. But overall, if you're looking at this market as what's going on, and you're not seeing the massive potential out there, there's not really a whole heck of a lot anyone's going to be able to do. You know, a lot of people get set in their ways. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have pullbacks. I'm going to say it again, but it's very difficult to look at this, look at the increased volume, and then say, this is definitely going to drop. You know, it's too high. That's like saying it's too low. The market doesn't work that way. There's demand for product. If there's demand, people are going to see their stock prices go higher. If there's supply, their stock prices are going to go lower. It's not more complicated than that. RDFN was another one that we talked about a couple days ago. You see that pattern right here, 1, 2, 3. I love these dojis, and you're seeing more and more of this, where you have this huge volume on these rallies. That's exactly what's happening there. And then you have these dojis, and then when they flip, they go. I bought this yesterday and then added to it again today when we flipped the doji, and did quite well with the trade. It looks great. Very little to say here. I think you're going to keep on grinding. I think that you're probably heading back all the way up to here around $21, $22. So they are names that I'm looking at. This SLB, these names, these oil names just keep on grinding higher and higher. And you're seeing crude just continue to plow ahead, and you can start seeing how we're coming out of that base. And that's what you want to see. You want to see that kind of stuff. So there will be winners and there will be losers. And I would tell you to focus on the winners. You know, this is one name that I'm definitely watching this AMD, and it's just getting to a point here where it just will not lift. It cannot get out of its own way. And the market's up substantially today, and it's just not lifting. So I need to be careful of the ones that are not moving and focus on the ones that are moving. AVGO, to me, could have some hangover here, because I think people are going to short that and go long VMware. That's what I think they're going to do. So I would watch these very carefully. This move, to me, is something worth paying attention to since the EU okayed that merger. It's definitely something to look at, but you're just seeing constant follow through on these ideas. Constant. It's not one day. It's pull back, test a level, rally, retest, and go. This was something I think we bought in the mid 30s, and you're already at 47. And I just don't see, when you look at this, how you could think that don't have the potential to get to the top of this and possibly gap fill. So you're seeing tons of breakouts, you're seeing tons of follow through, you're seeing tons of breadth in the market. To look at this and to say that we're going to pull back or that we're going to have some kind of reduction, it just doesn't make any sense unless you're talking about earnings. And so far, we're going to start seeing what those earnings are. We start having some earnings come out very, very soon here. You start taking a look at names like JP Morgan tomorrow. They come out with earnings. We're going to start seeing some of these. Right? Citigroup tomorrow. Okay, we have all these earnings tomorrow, and these are things that we should be paying attention to and seeing what they say on the financial side. If the financial side comes out and it's decent, you're going to have another leg of this market that's going to go higher. Now, all of a sudden, you had this really ugly pattern here, but all we've been doing is hitting higher lows, and now we're hitting higher highs. We have to watch the XLF and see how it gets over here, but tomorrow, JP Morgan, that could lift us. And that could continue to push us higher. And this is the kind of thing that we have to watch for because you're broadening out. And we went through this the other day. Look at XLE. All of a sudden, you're breaking out of this DTL, downward trend line. And that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see the breadth of the market increase. And we are definitely seeing that. There's your major, and here's your minor one. So you can see how this is playing out. We're starting to rally. As that continues, you're going to start seeing more and more opportunity to branch out into different sectors. In the meantime, you start looking at stuff like XLV, and what's happening here? These are the defensive names. What's happening? We're starting to roll over a little bit. You start looking at names like UNH. People are just throwing, get me out. Earnings tomorrow, but get me out, get me out. Now, whether or not you're going to say it's today or not, doesn't matter. It's been selling down since Monday. And the reason it's selling down is because people don't want to own defensive names anymore. You have to look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. It's really important when you start looking at how this is all balancing itself out. But I don't see any reason how you could be looking at XLRE and saying, okay, well, I'm concerned here. What are we concerned about? Okay, if we all know that commercial real estate's a problem, it's no longer a problem. Things become a problem when we're not aware of them. When we're not aware that regional banks could blow up, that's a problem. When we're all aware that office space can blow up, it's no longer a problem because that means they're already on it and they're going to adjust accordingly. Doesn't mean that some of these REITs aren't going to go to zero, but it's not going to be the problem that everybody thinks it has. So what I would do tomorrow is I would watch the leaders of today. I would see how they act around their respective option prices, and I would go from there. But it's very difficult to look at this market and just call the top. I think that people that are trying to do that, quite frankly, are a little bit delusional. What I would do is just trade what's in front of me. That's it. Just trade what's actually happening, have a process and a system to do that, and then just go forward. Will this end? Someday. Will we have a big pullback? I'm sure. I just technically don't see anything on the horizon or anything macro or anything fundamental that is leaning towards any of those things. That's it.